Sometimes you're reading through an ancient text like the book of Genesis, and you come across what looks like, well, just a boring family tree, a long list of names. But what if I told you this wasn't just a list? What if it's actually a blueprint, a step-by-step guide for building an entire nation from the ground up?
I mean, really think about it. How do you build a nation from scratch? It's a massive question, right? Well, believe it or not, this ancient text gives us a surprisingly detailed answer. We're going to trace that whole journey, from a single family to a full-blown, powerful kingdom. And it's all laid out in just one chapter.
So, every nation has to start somewhere, with someone. And for this one, our story begins with a man named Esau, who you might also know as Edom. He's the guy, the patriarch, the founder. And his story starts off pretty simply, just him and his family living in the land of Canaan.
Okay, so right here, this is the ground floor. This is the foundation being laid. You've got Esau, his 3 wives, and the first generation of sons. And listen, these aren't just names to gloss over. These guys are the seeds, the very beginnings of what will become powerful clans. Keep an eye on Eliphaz and Reuel in particular. They're going to be important.
So what's the spark that ignites this whole nation-building thing? Well, it's a problem that sounds super modern: economics. Basically, Esau and his brother Jacob get so successful, so wealthy, that the land they're on just can't support both of them anymore. So Esau has to pack up his entire operation and move to a new territory, Mount Seir. And that move, that separation, that's the crucial first step to creating a completely new national identity.
All right, on to phase 2 of building a nation. See, a family can't just stay a small family unit if it's going to grow into something bigger. So, the second generation, they start to organize. They form these larger, more powerful groups. They're not just sons anymore. They're becoming leaders, or what the text calls dukes.
Now I know what you're thinking. Duke? Like castles and royalty in Europe? But no, that's not what we're talking about here. We got to look at the original Hebrew word, which is aluf. This means something more like a chieftain, a clan leader, maybe even a military commander in charge of 1,000 men. So just think of these guys as the powerful heads of these big, sprawling family tribes.
And check this out. This is the source material right here. This isn't just speculation, it's the official record pulled straight from the text. It's literally listing out the leaders who would become the backbone of this brand new Edomite society. Pretty cool, right?
So to see how this actually works, let's just follow one line. We'll take a look at Esau's firstborn son, Eliphaz. His family really becomes the main example, the primary branch for this new leadership structure. And wow, look at that expansion. Just one son, Eliphaz, is the source for 7 different clans, and each one has its own duke, its own leader. You can literally watch this society just branch out right before your eyes, creating this network of tribes that are all connected. Now that is how you build complexity and strength.
And this wasn't just a fluke. It's not a one-off thing. The exact same pattern happens with Esau's second son, Reuel. His family line follows the same blueprint to a T.
So, Reuel's line, it gives us 4 more dukes. So let's do the math here. Between just 2 of Esau's sons, we're already at 11 organized clans, each with its own leader. This isn't random. This is a very deliberate, very structured way to grow a new people in a new land.
But here's a key detail. Esau's family wasn't just moving into some empty, unclaimed wilderness. Nope. Mount Seir was already home to a group of people called the Horites, and they had their own established society.
And what's really interesting is that the Horites were organized in the exact same way. They also had dukes leading their clans. So this gives us a picture of the political world the Edomites were walking into. And, they would eventually have to absorb or push out this existing structure to really establish their own dominance.
Okay, and all of this leads to what is probably the single most important development in this whole story. The Edomites take a huge political leap. They go from being this loose collection of tribes, and they consolidate all that power under one single central ruler. They get a king.
And this one sentence, wow, it is just packed with historical weight. It says it right there, plain as day. Edom had kings before Israel did. I mean, think about that. In the context of the ancient world, that's a huge statement about who got organized first, who was the more sophisticated political power at the time.
And again, the text doesn't just leave it at that. It gives us the details. It doesn't just say, oh yeah, they had a king. It lays out a whole succession of them, a dynasty. This isn't being presented as some fairy tale. It's laid out like a historical record of a real, functioning monarchy.
And here they are, the kings of Edom, laid out one after the other. The text even throws in little details like how King Hadad won a major military victory. So see, this isn't just a dry list of names. It's a story. It's the history of a nation's leadership, and it really shows the peak of Edom's political power.
So after we hear about the kings, the text kind of gives us one final look, like a summary of the whole thing. It describes the Edomite nation as a fully formed state, all organized by its established clans and the territories they controlled.
This final list of dukes we see, it's basically a map of the final power structure. These names represent the settled territories and the powerful families of a fully realized nation. The journey is complete. It went from one guy to a network of clans, to a unified kingdom, and finally to a settled, established nation, the whole process.
And then, the chapter wraps up with this one simple but incredibly powerful statement. It just brings the entire narrative full circle. It ties it all back to the beginning, cementing that connection between one man, Esau, and the entire nation he founded. The blueprint is officially complete.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? I mean, how many other detailed histories like this are just sitting there, waiting for us in these long lists and genealogies that most of us just skip right over? What other blueprints are hiding in plain sight?